I definitely shouldn't have rented such an expensive house, but I enjoyed living the high life until it didn't treat me well. I realized I should have lived somewhere cheaper so I could have saved more money to fall back on. But I had a plan. I own a truck because I've always enjoyed trucks. So I got a $1,000 camper in decent condition and mounted it on my truck so I could live in it for a bit. It was supposed to be temporary, but I ended up living in it for much longer than I had anticipated. I was hoping to be able to live out of the camper at my parents' house, where my brother and his family also dwell. But when I asked my parents if I might stay for a while, they said they had a full house and didn't want me there. Plus, we hadn't gotten along for the past decade. They stated they'd only let me park my camper there if I paid them about what it would cost to rent an apartment in my neighborhood. That was far too much just to park my camper. I was unemployed and attempting to save as much of my unemployment benefits as I could until I could find a new job. With the rent they were asking, I could have easily lived in an apartment. My folks termed my camper an eyesore and urged me to take a walk because we couldn't agree. My sister-in-law found it very humorous that I had to live in a camper. My brother joined her in pointing and insulting me, referring to me as a homeless bum. On the first night when I had nowhere else to go, I slept in my truck camper in a store parking lot. I was terrified that someone might try to break in. Needless to say, I did not sleep well that night. I had nowhere else to go because any other relatives who owned houses were rather far away, and all of my pals were in apartments. I was also really tied to my surroundings, so I didn't want to just leave. I'd also had my mail forwarded to a friend's place, which was the only way I could still receive it. Finding a safe area to park was tough. I began seeking a job similar to my old one. It takes months to live the nomadic camper life. At the time I had to deal with everything from beggars and drug users to people telling me to leave because my camper was an eyesore. Someone who instructed me to move claimed to be part of a HOA. I wasn't even parked on a street with houses, and when I asked what the HOA was, they were quite hostile and threatened me. I moved my camper nevertheless to avoid the problem. To ensure a consistent source of electricity, I learned to plug in a lengthy extension cord anywhere I could to recharge my camper batteries. This entailed sneaking around and putting it into an exterior outlet of a random building while parked on the street. I realize it's a bad thing to do, but I needed to keep my batteries charged, so my refrigerator stayed cool. I had a little solar power bag for charging my phone, but I didn't have a generator, which is noisy and requires fuel. So I did what I needed to do. After months of living like this, I eventually found a new job. I had to relocate to a neighboring city to find work that did not entail retail. I worked in retail during college and swore myself I'd never do it again, but I was almost ready to break that promise.